So I decided to do some of my own Lightfast testing, and I actually was going to let things go for about 6 months. The way that I was doing this testing is that, as you can see, I did a sheet, covered part of the color with a piece of the same paper that I used for the test, which is a Bristol board. And then I set this into a window that has full southern exposure, and I leave it there all during the daylight hours. But then I also have a grow tent that has very bright light in it. So once the sun sets, seeing as it is winter, and I wanted to try to get as much Lightfast testing as possible, after having put it in the window for about a week, I decided to start then exposing it to the light in the grow tent as well for about another 5 to 6 hours each day. This is testing a number of different pencils, Valacci, Magicfly, Albrecht, Durer, Koh-i-noor, Progresso, Aquarel pencils, Derwent Inktense, Prismacolor, Colore, Cray art, Color, and Color Brilliance. I decided to do this video now, and I'm going to put this back into the window. The test was started on 12/16/2020. After just a week of being in the window alone. Already over here you can see that there were a lot that were fading. The first that started to fade were, of course, the pinks, and strangely enough, this one blue. But let's go ahead and see just how some of these have performed so far by opening these up. Okay, so I went ahead and I removed the protective covers on here. And as you can see, some of these colors are extremely fugitive. When you consider that today is January 2nd, 2021, and this test was started on December 16th, 2020, some of the colors are completely gone. Now, this column here, all the way to right about there, to the black, all of these are, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right, the Valacci watercolor pencils, which I actually absolutely love. They disperse in water wonderfully. Now, I did not, with any of the watercolor pencils here, I didn't add water. I simply burnished down a very heavy application of the color. Now, let me bring this up a little closer. So you can see that, as expected, the most fugitive colors are usually in the pink and red ranges, and some of these are already just completely gone after just that very short time, not even a full month of exposure to sunlight and my grow lights. Now, the surprise to me was that this one blue actually is completely gone as well. And then you can see also now this next set, the ones that have M next to them, these are the Magicfly watercolor pencils. You can see they've got the same problem with their range of pinks, where they are completely gone. Now the Valacci, their purple was much more fugitive than the Magicfly of a similar shade of purple. The Magicfly, though, it changed color rather than completely disappearing. And moving on here, these that say AD on them, these are actually the Albrecht Durer Magnus watercolor pencils. As expected, there is no change. These are considered a very high quality professional watercolor pencil, and nothing. These are exactly the same as they were when they went down, which is actually what I would have expected, but I wanted to put them on here so that we could see them in comparison with the less expensive watercolor pencils. Now the next pencils in line, starting at the bottom here, are the, actually you can't see that, down at the bottom here, these are the Koh-i-noor Progresso Aquarel watercolor pencils. They are a solid core. There's no, just like the Progresso solid core colored pencils, there is no wood casing on them. And these seem to have performed fairly well, except for, we can see this sort of peachy pink has faded out quite a bit. And there is some slight fading already of the pinks, but again, they are nothing like the completely gone pinks of the less expensive watercolor pencils. We don't see much change here in the range of blues and greens, and of course the browns and the grays are not much changed either. So the next ones in this lineup are the Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils, and they start right here. Let me bring this up here. Now I did not have, I only had the 12 color set of those, so there's not many on here, but you can see that these really did not have any change either. Next in line are the Prismacolor, just their regular wax-based colored pencils, and they go from here all the way down and take up this entire column here and then up to here. Looking at these, you can see that in the Prismacolor, their 1086 and their 904 have had a very slight change in color at this point. And let me bring that up so you can see it a little better. It's hardly noticeable. As expected, you know, the Prismacolors are, you know, doing better than the others. Now, they have the same issue with their pinks. You can see here the Prismacolor 928. Hopefully you can see that one right here. That has shown some fading, as has 929 and 944. So the next ones in the lineup here, CR, those with CR on it, they are the Color Mega Colored pencils. And they go from here all the way down to this dark brown, which is right there. Now in the Color, they do have some fugitives. The CR35, as you can see, quite a bit of change. CR56, also quite a bit of change there. It does look like the CR38 is darkening, strangely enough, but definitely some changes there. But for the most part, their colors are pretty good. So the next colors that I tested are the Cray Art wax-based colored pencils. This is a rather inexpensive brand available on Amazon, and it's actually a very much of a favorite of mine. The working qualities of it are extremely similar to Prismacolor. So the Cray Arts are the ones with CA, and they run all the way down to here, and part of them to the black there. You can see that they have done fairly well. Their pinks, obviously, quite fugitive there. Cray Art 010, 013, and 012 are all showing significant change. And let me bring that up for you. You can also see that the 017 is having some change, and also their sort of peachy pinks are changing a bit. But really not as bad as the watercolor pencils from Magicfly and a Valacci have done. The next set of pencils that I tested are the Color Brilliance, which is their set of 12 metallics. And those are these right here. And if you take a close look at those, you can see that there is practically no change whatsoever on them. So the last ones that were tested, which are starting here and all along this column, are the Colore watercolor pencils. They are a rather inexpensive brand, again available on Amazon. And if you take a look here, okay, that's actually a Cray art pink there. The Colore start here. They, you can see a little bit of fading here, very little bit, but then of course once we get to our purples, you can see that they're fading significantly, as are all of their lavenders and pinks. And here's some more of their lavenders and pinks and peaches, which have definitely faded significantly. So we can take away from this that from December 16th all the way 2020 all the way through to today, which is only January 2nd, we're seeing significant fugitive qualities in the pinks, purples, and some of the blues in the lower cost watercolor pencils from Amazon. So the Valacci, I know I'm saying that wrong, the Magicfly watercolor pencils, and the Colore watercolor pencils all have had significant pigment loss. Now I do have to still point out though that many of their colors have had very little change in some of the reds and the yellows, the greens and the blues. You can see, there is some change. I expect that after this gets the sun and grow light treatment for, the rest of the 6 months that I wanted to do this test, that we will probably see a significant number of other colors that are going to fade. So that said, I did not expect the lower end watercolor pencils to perform well. I did not expect the Cray art wax-based colored pencils to perform that well, even though I do love them. This shouldn't really, though, shy you away from using them for just creating art for art's sake. Obviously you're not going to want to use any of these lower end pencils, I've said this in other videos, for any kind of art that you expect to sell or that you expect to display, because they're just not going to have the longevity. But for use as just doing work in a sketchbook or just having fun, painting a painting with these watercolor pencils, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't use them. You can build your skills using these lower priced sets. And, once you have your confidence built up, or you've tested an idea that you wanted to do for a painting that you do intend to last, then you can move on to some of the better pencils, such as the Albrecht Durer, which, as we can see, let me lift this up again, they have lasting power. Now, I fully expect that they will have some degree of fading after the 6 months is up, but from what I see here right now, I seriously do not think it's going to be as bad as what these others have done. And my final word on this is, keep in mind also that I am really giving these an extreme test. They're not behind any kind of archival glass. They are not sprayed with any kind of a UV fixative. This is just a very brutal test of these pencils that I wanted to see, how fast are the lower end going to fade, and what is the effect going to be on the more expensive pencils that I use for better works, which are the Albrecht Durer. This is not going to be what a piece of work would normally be subjected to in what they call museum conditions. But that's all for now. I will actually put up another video in another about 5 months once we finish seeing what happens to these after sitting in the sunlight and the grow tent light for that long.